I'm joined by Ed Reyes and Dennis Zine. This, in fact, is the Public Safety Committee meeting for Monday, November 3rd. Let's do a couple of things, colleagues. First of all, I'm informed by Ms. Stengel that item 3 needs to be continued. So we'll continue item 3, that's the Kevlar. Items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 can be handled on consent. If you indeed consent, Mr. Reyes says yes.
Yes.
Mr. Zine says yes. Item 2, Chief Rapoli, I'd like to handle you on consent. What's that? What? No, what's that? Yeah, I know. Okay, you got backup. I can't believe you're here. We can make this hard or make it easy. I'd say let's make it easy. Anyone have any questions for these guys who are doing a great job for us, representing us in the emergency management world?
They're doing great.
Okay, I'll take that as a thank you very much, and you are doing a great job, and sorry that you came all the way over here. Nice to see you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, so that item 2, that reappointment is approved, and I think we just have Chief Beck this morning then with item 1. Mr. White.
John White, City Clerk. Item 1, Police Department to present verbal report relative to the status of DNA testing, backlog, and cold hits, and other DNA-related matters.
You'll miss these when I'm gone, Mr. Reyes.
Shock and dismay.
Hey, you'll really miss it when one day they clear the backlog.
Oh, man.
Morning, Chief.
Good morning, Councilman. How are you? I brought, obviously, SID and RHD to do their normal report, and then if the committee has any questions over the broader scope of what's going on that haven't been answered in the recent past, and I'm here for you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Yvette Sanchez-Owens, SID. This week we have 7,117 cases in our backlog, and that's comprised of 200 kits that have been requested for analysis that are not yet completed, and 296 other kits that are not rape kits that have not been completed yet, and then also 6,621 kits that are in the backlog that have never been requested for analysis. So far this year, we've taken in 776 rape kits. 515 of those have not yet been requested for analysis. So far year to date, case to offender notifications under CODIS are 218 cases.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Sanchez-Owens.
Detective Tim Marcia from Robbery Homicide Division, Cold Case Homicide Unit. This is year to date and ending October 31st, 2008. Year to date, we've had 223 CODIS hits. That's a 17% decrease from last year's 269. Of the 223, 28 of those hits are homicide investigations, and that is a 15% decrease in comparison to last year's 33 hits. We've had 128 sexual assault hits. That's a 4% decrease from last year's comparison of 133 hits. And of the other type hits from burglary, robbery, and other crimes, we've had 67, and that's a 35% decrease to last year's 103 hits.
Thank you, Detective. Anyone have any questions for the detective, Ms. Sanchez-Owens, or Chief Beck?
A question regarding the number rape kits where there was no analysis requested. Why would they request analysis?
They usually request analysis on the cases that are most pressing to them, knowing that our resources are not 100% capable of handling everything. They try to prioritize them for us, and we do those first, although we continually look at what's about to drop off the 2-year and the 10-year statute, and we send those as well.
So when they have a crime and victim, and does it matter if there's a description of the suspect or not for them to put the request in? Because you would think if there's evidence, they put a request in, hopefully they get a match down the road. I couldn't understand why they wouldn't be requesting.
There's a wide variety of occurrences in which kits are taken. Some rapes are, or some reports of rape are later unfounded based on victims' discussions and things like that. Some are the incidents where the perpetrator's identity is not an issue because they're known to the suspect, and in many times, in those instances, the prosecution hinges on consent rather than identification. So when a detective gets a case, they do a categorization, and there's a number of levels that they put their request at, so that we can have a scale of trying to optimize SID's time. So, for instance, and Tim can help me if I misspeak here. For instance, the number one categorization will be stranger, suspect outstanding, rapes. That's number one. Those right to the top of the list. Those never go to backlog, or that's our goal, is that they never go to backlog. Other ones where the suspect's identity is known and it's a issue of consent. Those are they still will get tested. They're still part of our backlog. We're not going to not test these kits, but they're further down the priority chain, because that oftentimes, well, in almost all cases, the DNA is not required for the prosecution there. It's more about a credibility issue. And I think what it really talks to is the huge scope of what the crime code rape encompasses. I mean, there's a litany of pieces, and no two crimes are the same. And so we try to recognize that when we do the priority. But we're going to look at all that again as part of our task force. We're going to make sure, and it's way too early for me to tell you what will be changed, if anything, on this. But that is a big piece of what we're looking at, is how we're doing our prioritization, so that when you get these numbers, when you get these backlog numbers, it makes more sense to you. Because obviously the 6,800 number, it's a huge number, and it's hard to get your arms around what does that really mean. Does that mean there's 6,800 stranger rapes out there with suspect outstanding? No, that's not what it means. But I need to. We'll get that so it makes more sense to you. That's one of my goals.
And I look forward to that. One thing, Mr. Zine, that I've long believed, and I think most people in the rape advocacy community believe, is that while it is true that the stranger rapes should get the priority in terms of, and I think you're going to give them the priority, yes, it's important to test all of the rape kits, because rape is, when you understand what this particular crime is, and you realize that it's a crime of violence, and you realize that it's a crime that follows a pattern, and you realize that it's a crime that has a high rate of recidivism, you understand that someone who committed a date rape over here is, it's quite possible that they committed a different sort of rape at another point. And so you want to get all of their DNA into the system, because you may solve past unsolved crimes, and you also may put yourself in a position in the future of solving a future crime, because these aren't isolated occurrences for the most part. But you recognize that.
And that's absolutely correct. We agree with that, absolutely. And it's very important, that we grow the DNA database. The DNA, we are at the very low rungs of the ladder on where this will go. By the time we're all somewhere else doing something else, the DNA database will be very robust, and the crime of rape will not go unpunished.
And there was a good article in Saturday's LA Times, I don't know if either of you saw it, Mr. Zine or Mr. Reyes, on a DNA dragnet, yes, that the LAPD has right now for the serial rapist who's at large in South Los Angeles.
South Los Angeles. Yes.
Yeah, and just interesting. And it was interesting to me that the PD made the decision to allow the reporter to come and see the operation that you had. So I'm not publicizing anything that you'd already decided to get out there.
And that was a bit, of course, obviously we make these decisions are always tough about how public you make these things, but we have that person's DNA on profile already, we're not going to get any more evidence out of another crime. And so if it isn't. I'm not bothered by the fact that was made public, which is one of the reasons that Joel Rubin was allowed to go, because, at this point, we just need to grow the DNA database. And as you all know, thanks to the legislature and your support, starting January, we're going to be actively engaged in growing the DNA database with almost all arrestees. It's going to be it will change this discussion. Now we just got to get it so it's a little faster and cheaper to do, but we'll work on that.
Let me ask you two questions, Chief. The first is precisely about that. Does the LAPD's new program of swabbing swabbing all arrestees, does that come under your purview, or is that somewhere else in the department?
Well, it'll take place in the jail. And then, of course,
so jail is not under.
No, jail doesn't. Jail's under Office of Chief Paysinger runs the jails. So, but he and I will work very closely. Our offices are right next to each other. I've talked to him for about an hour this morning before I came here. So, we're not going to lose anything by the separation. I'm very confident. Office of Operations and detectives work hand in hand. We have to, besides the fact that we want to. And then, of course, SID will have a piece in the transport and analyzation.
Let me ask you a different question, which is with respect to the hiring that the council approved last week. Ms. Stengel has had discussions with Ms. Sanchez-Owens and Rhonda Sims-Lewis and all these other folks about how you're actually going to ramp up and do that hiring. You may, as you sit here today, not actually have a plan. You may have a plan. Either way, I would like to have this committee as part of the briefings that come forward regularly in the new year. It doesn't have to be every week. This week we almost hired a criminalist. But let's put some reporting in on the hiring as well, just so that we can be clear that you're out there doing it, and the world can see that you're out there doing it.
I can tell you that we've already requested certs for all of the classifications, and we are waiting for people to call in requesting interviews, and we'll start that process very soon.
Excellent.
And we'll update you. We can include that as part of the things that Yvette includes in her briefing. That's very easy to do. She and I have had a lot of discussions about this over the weekend, and actually SID has a rough draft of their of how we're going to do this, so we can talk about that.
Thank you.
Are all the positions specialized positions? Are they entry-level positions, mid-management? I mean, how would you categorize these positions? Are they technicians?
Well, Yvette's best, but most of them are very educated folks that have to go through a specific curriculum, but she can talk to them.
Yeah, the bulk of them are criminalists, which are entry-level scientist positions at SID. They come to us usually right out of college. Although we're trying to attract folks that are already in the business somewhere else at other labs, because they come to us pretty much trained. Once folks come to us from college, it's anywhere from a year to 2 years of training, depending on what kind of experience they have under their belt. So we prefer to get folks that are already somewhere else doing this work. They're ready to hit the road running.
Thank you. Regarding the sample that's going to be collected, that'll be by the jail personnel or the arresting officers?
I think that it will probably be done by jail personnel, because it's a smaller pool to train, and they're the ones that are always there, and the officers are. I think jail would probably be better.
Yeah, it would be a lot easier for.
I think so too.
Officers, so.
I think so too. And again, we're trying to do, as you know, as the Councilmember Zine is well aware, we are trying to limit the amount of time officers spend in that jail. That is lost man hours that don't get that we can't get back. So anything we can do to unweight the arresting officers and get them back out in the field is what we want to do. So.
Okay. Thank you for the report, and really appreciate how the level of attention that all three of you provided this issue. Thank you so much.
Appreciate the City Council's interest in this, because that's going to allow us to do our jobs.
Thank you, folks. All right, that's the end of the agenda. No hands, no cards, no mas.
All righty then.